kittens, welcome back to my channel. Today I am back talking about Demi Lovato again. Some of you really enjoyed my video from last time and very few of you didn't. I appreciate everyone's opinions because that helps my videos become better and helps me become a better person altogether. So I appreciate all of you and thank you so much. I have been researching further into Demi just to see like where her mental state really stands, what might have happened to her, to see how she might have became this way, because that is also very important. And really just the overall purpose of these videos is to see if she is narcissistic or just generally a bad person or not. And I feel like that's really important, especially towards people who might want to follow her. At the end of the day, some people, they like to support people that they feel like are genuine good people, and that's where we really want to look into. Let's get into the video.
What I want people to take away from the documentary is that it's the most important thing you can do for yourself is to live your truth.
What do you think people would be most surprised to find out about the process?
Because we filmed this in COVID, it was actually kind of hard to get all of my family to film their interviews. You were calling me like, we need Dallas's interview, and I was like, well, I don't know what to tell you. She's out of town.
Remember the first day when we had to stop every 20 minutes for the Lysol wipe down? So we were like getting somewhere and we're like, Lysol,
like, and then I overdosed.
Starting off this interview, everything has been pretty good, to be honest. Just wanted to stop and say though that I kind of feel like sometimes you have to joke around about stuff to make like serious situations better, so I kind of feel like that's all this really is. I'm just letting you guys know that even if I'm unbiased, I really do not enjoy this woman at all, but I'm being unbiased and this seems like it's just a genuine conversation.
I didn't want to delay the telling of my story. Seeing this doc come out kind of in real time, you know, matching my personal growth, it's really, really cool.
How different you think it would have been if we waited?
I just think that we would have lost elements of truth. I may not have had those same nuggets had it been 2 years from now.
When I first heard that, I was thinking, well, that's kind of hard to lose elements of the truth, because usually it's like people try to hide the truth and the truth will always come out. That's usually how the truth is. Now, like, you can lie as much as you want, but the funny thing about the truth and karma is that it usually comes out. It could come out years later, but it'll always come out. So you should never fear or rush yourself to get your story across, especially if truth is your main concern, because truth has a way. Also, like, she might not also have her brain fully intact in the next 2 years because she is an addict, and being an addict is an everyday choice, so we have to remember that.
When I was honest in the past, I wasn't fully honest. Then I kind of had to come back and say, you know what? I'm gonna really be honest, and that's what I feel like.
I know it's hard to live your truth, and I know that it's hard to get things like down or whatever, like get yourself down. Healing is messy as fuck, and like, you know, I know that from experience, but never once in my life have I ever lied to somebody unless it saved my life. I don't feel like you should ever have to openly say to someone, because like just saying to someone that you've been dishonest and then saying I'm going to be honest now, to me, that doesn't mean anything. You have to use actions. Actions at that point are the only thing that's going to validate what you just said.
How do you end a doc on a 28-year-old? Someone who's just starting to grow, right? And I think that that's kind of what's so special, is that there's no pressure at the end of this.
Life's fluid, I'm fluid, things are going to change. You know, my hair is going to be pink one day, and then I might identify as something else the next.
Okay, we're going to talk about that real quick. She said that she might identify as something new the next day. The one thing that I really want to cover in this more than anything is that she often says that, and within this documentary, that she does talk about her trying to find her gender and everything, which is cool for her, but she openly says that she could be one thing one day and something the next, and that to me means that you're putting on a front for people, or like you're going with whatever is trendy or whatever, which is a part of narcissism. We're going to keep continuing to go through just to make sure.
What I would strive for instead of stability is like serenity and peace.
Serenity and peace.
And like content with the person I've become through the chaos. I'm continuing to grow and I'm continuing to learn, and like anyone who says they have it figured out, they don't have it figured out, because it can't be ego-based.
And it's really good to hear that she's healing and that she's working on herself. This is what she's been doing in the pandemic, which is what we honestly all should have been doing during the pandemic. We'll see, like, because this also, you guys have to also be aware that this happened before the froyo. I kind of feel like if you have a lot of self-reflection, especially on your traumas, like, it should not be affecting small businesses.
If you want to know about my story, watch the doc. And if I want to elaborate more about it someday in a book or something or another doc, then I will.
Also, her talking about it again, she has like 5 documentaries already about pretty much the same thing, which I kind of thought was super crazy.
It's as honest as you're gonna get because I trust you with like my life, and it's really, really exciting.
What does it feel like to have this doc coming out at 28? You're alive to see it. You made it past, you know, hopefully what's the darkest times behind you. And there's a lot of other superstars, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, people that did not. Like, you survived the 27 Club. Do you think about how important that is?
Sometimes I still deal with like survivor's guilt, and
Wow.
there's a lot of musicians that just don't make it, and I was very close to being one of them.
Demi Lovato is the only person that I've really seen that uses survivor's guilt when it comes to like using drugs. Okay, I've seen survivor's guilt with like if somebody was doing drugs with somebody in the car and the batch of drugs was bad and the person next to them died and they didn't die. I see that as survivor's guilt. If you were in a car crash and your entire family died and you were the only one who survived, I see that as survivor's guilt. Like, I understand that she talks to these celebrities, but I don't know if that means that she actually knows them, because from my understanding that I understand from celebrities, a lot of them don't know each other. They've heard of each other, but they don't know each other. Not all the time, unless they're friends. But to sit there and have, like, she has so much guilt, and she talks about all the time how she's so proud of herself for still being here, even though, like, so many other people, even just normal people, aren't here, and they still do drugs. And she says, like, she talks so highly about it, but she still does it. So I'm like, I don't, like, and I know people are going to be like, she hasn't done drugs in forever, she hasn't done anything hard in forever. Like, she has an addict mentality, and she still drinks, and she still smokes. And I know, like, it's really hard and want to have control over your life when you're an addict or whatever, but it's like, you have shown people through these documentaries that you aren't trustworthy with your own decisions, which you guys will see.
I will continue to live every day at my fullest potential, because aside from some of the musicians and other entertainers that haven't made it, I think about my friends that haven't made it. Say I'm having a bad day and so-and-so's not here to have a bad day.
Okay, so this is extremely weird also. Like, why would you sit there and say that, you know, you have survivor's guilt and you're so upset about how your friends aren't here, or that it makes you think about certain people, but when you go to talk about somebody, there's nobody to be talked about. You just say so-and-so's not here. That just seems like something so casual that you would say, because it's not something that you would say about somebody that you cared about, or about a serious situation about somebody dying. When I think of losing someone to cancer, I can honestly say my stepdad. When I think of cancer, someone losing to someone to cancer, I think of my stepdad, honestly. So I don't see how, when you lost someone to drugs, that you can't think of somebody off the top of your head. And I feel like that's really weird, and that is very ungenuine of her to even bring that up if she can't bring up someone's name. It's just crazy to me. All right, let's continue. This is a very triggering video. It's triggering. So if you are triggered, please skip this section of the video or the rest of the video, because this is where it's going to start talking about death, near-death experiences, overdosing, actions without consent. This is where you should stop. No go if you are a very sensitive person.
I've had so much to say over the past 2 years of, like, wanting to set the record straight about what it was that happened. FYI, I'm just gonna say it all, and then if we, like, don't want to use any of it, we can take it out.
I can't believe y'all are doing this. This is lit, but okay.
So this girl right here, I'm just gonna say, out of all the people, this girl here, I feel very bad for her. She obviously has taken some of the heaviest damage from dealing with Demi. And this is one of Demi's best friends. So these would be her support group. So this would show, like, just so people know, supporting someone with mental illness that has dealt with traumas, any, like, healing, anything like that is super, super stressful. So if you support someone, you know, you're really awesome for that. But just to see how she reacts to what had happened with Demi.
I've been working on trying to be free for 13 years.
The U.S. tour was absolutely a dream come true, obviously, professionally.
But this girl here, she took another huge chunk of attack and abuse and everything from doing literally nothing. This is Demi Lovato's dance producer and also very good friend. She is very loyal to Demi, which is like, we all wish to have friends like that. I don't. It's okay. And just overall, like, she's still sticking through everything. I just want you guys to see what had happened.
Anytime that you suppress a part of yourself, it's gonna, like, overflow at some point. And that's ultimately, like, what happened to me in a lot of areas of my life. And it was what led to my overdose, for sure.
Her overdosing was one of the overdoses from what I've saw in here is associated with her not having enough freedom.
Clearly she knew she was using drugs, but don't know if she knew exactly what she was taking.
After leaving her friend's birthday celebration, Demi texted her drug dealer, who she's been using since April, to bring her oxycodone.
Really, so the oxycodone, I think, is the pills, but the pills themselves had fentanyl in them as well. So, like, if people don't know, you literally need, like, a grain of salt, like, worth of fentanyl to kill you. It's not very much fentanyl at all. Like, Demi, I do not doubt for a second that Demi was dying. Like, I genuinely do believe that she was dying, just so everyone knows.
I crossed a line that I had never crossed in the world of addiction. It's interesting that it took me a quarantine to work on this trauma stuff. I have never really taken the time to dig deep and do the work on.
Demi talks about her dad and the relationship that they didn't have. So there's a part where she talks about him overdosing, but very soon into this she'll show him as an older gentleman, so it made me kind of confused because the way that she speaks about him in this moment is as if he had died when she was very young, and that he was very close to her and everything. Because, like, hold on, there's like a whole scene in here. I thought this was so odd. Right here, this part here is weird.
A second chance.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, when I turned around and saw my dad in those pictures.
Oh, yeah.
Something about, like, I saw him in rehearsal, it just wasn't the same.
Yeah.
We had an estranged relationship, so we weren't close, and growing up my whole life, I longed for that relationship with him, and then I resented him because he was an addict and an alcoholic and was abusive to my mom. And so I cut him out because I felt like, you know, it was causing more harm than good to have him in my life. His death was very complicated because we don't actually know the exact day that he died.
I can relate to Demi on so many different aspects of her life. I didn't have a good connection with my father as well. I did not talk to my father for a long time. He was very abusive towards me and my mom and any other woman, animal, anything. So growing up in that situation with, like, the not having a father figure, I really didn't have parents in general, so I understand that you always have this longing feeling for a parent. It never goes away because you didn't get that as a child. I don't know her relationship with her mom. I'm not sure, like, how healthy their relationship is. It could be very possible that her mom didn't give her the attention that she needed, so that she is now attention seeking because she didn't have a father and that she strictly relied on her mom. I don't know her relationship with her mom, so I can't say that for sure, but that is a very big possibility. which would come out in the attention seeking as an adult, the doughy eyes, the childlike demeanor. Just so people are aware, though, that it doesn't matter what kind of trauma you went through, you can still become narcissistic, you can still become very toxic, you can become abusive. It doesn't matter what your mental illness is, what you experienced in your life, or anything else. It does not give you a reason to harm other people with emotions or physically. So I want people to understand that, coming from a place of understanding and an experience, that this is never okay, and that you should not give any celebrity or any person that enabling response of, oh yeah, they just had a bad past. Stop that shit.
I felt a lot of guilt over the years because I've been such an advocate for mental health.
Sometimes I have bad body image days. I look in the mirror and I don't like what I see.
Yet here was my father who had bipolar and schizophrenia, and then on top of that, the disease of addiction.
With her father having bipolar, she could have bipolar, she could have BPD, she could have anything. Bipolar sets a genetic code where you could get anything like that, especially like with him having bipolar and schizophrenia. And it's also not unheard of that, you know, especially back in the day, mental health was not as taken care of. It's very possible that he sat there and he shut himself in and he did what he had to do to feel like he was connected to this reality until he died. And that's very unfortunate for her. It's very unfortunate that she had to experience that. And it's very unfortunate that she is now continuing the curse, which is really, really sad. And I bet you that eats her up inside as well. So I am very understanding that, you know, traumas come in all aspects. And this is very sad that, you know, she went through this. Does this give you the permission to mess with someone else's life, someone else's business, or anything like that? No. If this forms a mental disorder, does that give you the right to treat other people any differently? No. Does being even Asperger's, anything like that, give you the enabling to whatever to treat people differently? No. You understand yourself better. That's what the diagnosis does. It helps you understand yourself better so that you do not put these things onto other people. That's the whole point of getting diagnosed, is that you can live a normal life, that you can socialize with other people. Mental health, if you want to be an advocate, we have to do it right.
Ultimately, like, I know that he was kind of too far gone at that point. He needed to realize that he needed help himself.
Sobriety has to be your choice and no one else's. If it is someone else's choice for you, then it won't last. And so I tried to get him to get help, and I wasn't able to make that happen. He wasn't ready.
If you look at my family history, my mom has dealt with substances and an eating disorder, so I didn't know any different. Then I was put in beauty pageants where it's extremely competitive
and extremely damaging. So yeah, there was a lot of toxic. She was raised basically in a house of trauma, and unfortunately being raised in a house of trauma breeds more trauma. So she already was in a very traumatic state growing up.
I've realized that I've spent more time trying to please other people the past several years of my life than I have really trying to make it what I want.
We had to be very careful what we ate around her, which sounds insane.
Control. So here he literally says that she had control over her last team, which may or may not have destroyed her sense for the next team. So she was still trying to be like, hey, no, you can't eat around me, which is like, I understand, like, you have an eating disorder, it's really sensitive to be around people, but this is pushing your insecurities on other people. Now they can't eat because you're eating. Like, them eating in front of her upset her, so to where she made them stop eating in front of her. Like, I understand, like, it's very hard having an eating disorder, but it's like you're literally making your teammates not eat, which I thought this was the craziest part. This is one of the craziest parts in documentary. This should have never happened.
The control and the restriction was way too toxic for her, and she was miserable.
My team has consisted of assistants, a wellness coach, a dietitian, nutritionist, therapist. I've had all these people in and out of my life.
She hired them. I just want people to be aware of that when she sits there and she says, like, oh, I have this, I have a dietitian, I have this, and I have that, I have this, I have this. I'm not saying that they're not needed. I'm not saying that somewhere that these people don't give her some sort of comfort. I wanted to just bring out that she has hired these people. These are her workers. They work for her. She has literally already said that she has a therapist on speed dial. So she has her own team of people, which is not out of the norm for celebrities. They have their own teams, usually sometimes their own chefs. So it's very, very common for celebrities. But the thing that upsets me is the pure control over the food to where it affects her workers. You know what I'm saying? Like, we weren't okay with Ellen DeGeneres doing shit to her workers and having too much control over her workers to the point where their jobs were miserable. We should not be okay with this. That's not okay. You know, that's definitely insecurities being put onto other people.
There were times where I had to spend the night because she, like, ate a cookie.
I felt like I was always walking on eggshells, no matter what. What I was eating, around who, what we had in our dressing room, what kind of food.
It was very intense. Everyone around her had to be drug tested. You know, she wasn't allowed to hang out with anybody that wasn't sober completely.
And I'm just not feeling comfortable in my body right now because I stopped being so strict with food so that I could get more peace with it rather than like living my life in a diet. I put on like a little weight. So, like, I don't want to go on stage every night in clothes that are, like, showy. A part of the problem is, too, is, like, the sketches that they draw. Everything looks good on a sketch because it's a 10-foot, 90-pound model.
I agree with this 110%. Look at this model. Look at how they depict her versus how she really is versus how they draw her on the thing. This could definitely mess with her body image issues, especially already growing up with, you know, having role models that taught her that it was okay to have body image issues. So that's definitely, I can understand this 110%. 110%.
And you're not going to feel well. Whatever we're trying to control or afraid of will end up happening if that's our only focus.
The choice that she made was, I think it was for agency for herself, but also I think it was a major act of rebellion, where it's like, you're gonna tell me what I can and can't do for 6+ years? Watch me.
It was hammered into her head. You have to be sober. You have to be this icon, this role model that my sister never claimed to want to be in the first place.
We know that Demi has never ever said that she wanted it, like she was a perfect human being and everything, but it's like you put yourself in the spotlight. So like when you put yourself in the spotlight, you are opening yourself up to getting feedback for doing that. Just like I get feedback for my YouTube videos or anybody else does for like posts or whatever, you usually get some sort of feedback for what you say or do. So let's just remember that Demi has been overdosing for a while, and then after she overdoses, she makes a documentary, and then she's on the news every time. I've never seen another celebrity be on the news that much for overdosing. Like DMX, I didn't even know he even did drugs until he died. Like, this is the shit that I want people to be aware of. I just think it's weird. Like, I didn't even know who DMX was, and then he died. Like, and people were talking about, oh, he had cancer. Oh, he had, you know, he's been overdosed, like, he's been doing drugs for years and things like that. And it's like, okay, well, why didn't anybody talk about that? Like, why do we talk about Demi so much? Like, I understand that Demi has her own issues and everything, but I kind of feel like part of Demi's issues is not connected with herself as much as other people.
I felt like I had to be this perfect role model.
You just put yourself into a role after you were not mentally sound to be an advocate for something that you're not mentally sound to do. You're still healing, which is like, you shouldn't be doing this. You're not okay.
At the same time, you become a martyr in a way that is so isolating, and I think it just gets to you.
I don't think she really understands, you know, how much of an impact
she has on her fans.
To be the poster child of perfection and mental health and all these kind of things is such a dangerous, slippery slope.
She should have never been the advocate for sobriety, the advocate for, you know, rehab and everything, because she keeps overdosing. She can do her. That's why I want people to understand she could do her. Like, but when you openly sit there and you record yourself openly sitting there going, I'm working on myself, like, I'm doing the best I can, you know, like, all this other stuff, it's very inspiring, and it really is. But then you record yourself also overdosing over and over and over and over again. There's so many people who are addicts. Addicts, when you're an addict, it doesn't stop. It doesn't just go away because you stop doing whatever substance that you were doing. It's an everyday choice. It's how you deal with because you had a bad day, or because you can't deal with something somebody said, or something like that. Like, it's an everyday choice of how to deal with your negative parts of your day. She can't say that she'll ever be clean because she's an addict. You know, she learned this from watching her dad. She learned this from watching her mom. So she is a generational addict. This is taught. She's working hard on everything on it, but with her sitting there saying like, oh, well, I don't want to be completely sober and everything. Nobody's telling you have to be completely sober. You in your own mind, you in your own head, you know with being an addict that you should not be doing this because it's not good for you. That it can potentially be 1 drink turns into 2 drinks, turns into 3 drinks. There is no moderation. This is something that Elton John literally says himself in here. There is no moderation. He's speaking from experience. He's been sober for like 13, I think he said years, 13 or 30. Good for you, Elton John. But the point is that there is no limitation. There is no, I can just have 1 little drink and it'll be fine. That's not the case. That's the reason why she feels like, oh, well, everybody's like trying to tell me what to do. You've overdosed so many times that this is the end result. If somebody has an eating disorder to where they start to literally fall apart, there's laws in place to where you can take them out of their home without their permission. This is the same thing for here, but she literally has hired these people on her own to keep herself safe. So she understands that she has an issue. Now she feels like she's too controlled. It just seems like a lot going on. It's like you either heal or you don't. If you're not ready to heal, don't. If you're ready to heal, do. And that's how you heal. It's entirely up to you.
Years is a long time to be told that if you slip up, you're gonna die. And at some point, enough just becomes enough.
Why they say if you slip up, you're gonna die is usually because when you sit there and you don't use drugs for a long time, your tolerance goes down. And a lot of people who do things that are injecting, even though Demi smokes it, if you inject or whatever, you could measure out how much you can actually handle and you could die. If it has fentanyl in it, you're gonna probably die anyway. Just letting you know. If it has fentanyl in it, you're gonna die anyway. It doesn't matter. How do I know so much things about drugs? I wanted to be a SWAT team member. I wanted to bust through people's door. Oh yeah, give me them drugs.
FBI, open up!
So yeah, I learned a lot about drugs. This is set up from Demi, just so people know this is her choice. And it's a very good choice. Now, is she regretting those choices? Yes. Why? Because she's a drug addict and she does not want to be sober.
And I remember being at the photo shoot and just thinking to myself, like, I don't even know why I'm sober anymore. Like, I am so miserable. I'm not happy. I have all this stuff that I'm dealing with. I picked up a bottle of red wine that night, and it wasn't even 30 minutes before I called someone that I knew had drugs on them. I ended up at a party. I just so happened to run into my old drug dealer from 6 years before, and...
She just said she called him. She just said she called him, and then she was in a room, and now she's saying that she ran into him at the party, which is like, if you ran into him beforehand, I can see that being the thing, which... I don't know. I don't fucking know, dude.
And I just went to town. I went on a shopping spree. That night I did drugs that I'd never done before. I'd never done meth before. I tried meth. I mixed it with Molly, with coke, weed, alcohol. Oxycontin, and like that alone should have killed me.
I think in terms of her friends and family, the thing was is that we didn't really know about the drugs.
She can hide stuff really, really well.
It was only like 2 weeks before I was introduced to heroin and crack cocaine. I started using recreationally, and obviously like you can't do that with heroin before you become addicted to it.
This guy right here, this is her drug dealer. So he was there for the entire time. There's several other videos that she has with this guy in it. And this is the one that she had some issues with, besides drugs.
She disappears from game night. Everyone's kind of looking to me like, Syra, where is she? And so I go upstairs and I find her in the bathroom, and she's got, you know, tinfoil, and she's smoking something. And so I walk over to her and I grab it and I'm like, what the are you up to, bro? Like, this is not it. And she didn't even notice I was there, you know? And I was horrified and devastated. So I stayed there and just made sure she didn't, like, you know, kill herself. And the next day I just told her, I said, you need to go get help. I can't do this anymore.
Just from her friend saying that, like, you can literally hear the pain in her friend's voice. This is really hard for her friend to have to do. This is obviously something that she's walked into many a times, to have to say, I literally cannot do this anymore. There's other things within the video too that show that there's other, like, there's so many forms of fucking control that are so, they're not apparent. Like, unless you have gone through some sort of abuse, these things are not, like, super apparent. Her controlling the food is not good. Her sitting there and pushing all of her emotions onto her friends. You can sit there and confide in people, but if you sit there and do it too often or you do it too much, that is emotional dumping, and that can actually give the people that you confide in your PTSD. That can give them your trauma, and it is a real type of trauma. You're basically just sharing how you feel to other people. Eventually they will pick up on those feelings and have those fears and everything else for themselves. It is very, very toxic to constantly dump on people. You know, it's like, think of it like two planets. Their planet was clean, your planet had some garbage on it, and instead of you just leaving their planet alone, you threw your garbage onto the planet. It cleared yours out a little bit, so you like, oh, I like this, and you just continuously keep throwing your garbage on the other person's planet. Your planet every day will look a little bit more clean just from that one huge bag of garbage, but that one big bag of garbage is a lot more for that person. They didn't have that garbage, you know, they never had those burdens. They don't know how to deal with them. So it's like, eventually your planet won't be that great because you're still creating your own trash, but you'll clear out little spots here and there, but they don't know how to deal with that shit. And you just threw all that garbage onto their planet, and now they don't have nowhere to put it. They don't have any way to deal with it.
Went on tour to Europe. I stayed clean, kind of, like, wasn't doing drugs, but was drinking a lot.
Shots, go, 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 go! Everybody's got their line. I see it every day.
More! Oh God!
When I came back to LA after tour, I picked up where I had left off, and I was very heavily using.
We are rearing towards the end of these videos right here. So right there she talks about, again, how she was just drinking. It was just drinking. She literally says that. It was just drinking. But she went from drinking to drinking heavily while she was gone, and then as soon as she got home, she started using. So if people are concerned with why people are upset about her talking about, like, how she literally has fans that are upset with her for the drinking and smoking weed, it's like, it's not horrible, like, those things, but for somebody who has addiction, it is, because there is no moderation. There is no limit. It will always take this loop, and she's starting it again. So I really hope that people are ready, because she could possibly overdose again.
Sorry that I'm here again. I forgot the words.
You can give them advice when they're older. You can certainly advise them when they ask you, but a lot of it you don't see because they don't live in the same house as you.
I went out to a friend's party, and none of my friends knew what I was using. So I kept it very hidden from everyone. That is one thing that I was very good at, was hiding the fact that I was addicted to crack and heroin. So to them, I wasn't doing these hard drugs. To them, I was just normal again. I met up with some friends. We went to several different bars. We came back to my house. And around 5:30 in the morning, I said I was going to bed.
But the reality was that I had called one of my dealers over.
So that's where we're going to leave it off for today. I have a whole nother video that I still have to put out. There's so much more information than just this. I want to be as thorough as possible about what happened to Demi, her personality and everything, so that people can make the best decision possible if this is what you're interested in, to know if you should support her or not. At the end of the day, that is your decision. You could watch these videos, disagree or agree, and still continue to support her. That is your right and your opinion, your everything. This is just to like find out what kind of person she is, and so far she has had a lot of trauma, but I still don't see this ever being an excuse to treat anyone badly. But I mean, I've experienced worse than this and still don't treat people like that. So it's literally how you heal from your past traumas. It's how you deal with them, how you deal with other people, because other people can still trigger you and remind you of your past traumas. So it's really good to hear that she's working on herself. Do I think she's done? No. I don't think she's done, nor do I think that she's doing it completely healthy. I think that she should have a little bit more help. It seems like she's healing and she realizes that she's important, which is what we all realize when we're healing. I just recently started talking more about myself as well, because you start to realize that you are important. But at the end of the day, we are just people, and there's a lot of us, and we aren't the most important person in the room. There are lots of more people who deserve our attention when we need to give them our attention. But at the same time, you should have that self-love. That is important, because you cannot love other people unless you genuinely care about yourself. You have to care about yourself to care about other people. You do not understand the feeling unless you can. It's literally how it works. Her loving herself is good. Just want people to say that. Loving yourself too much is bad. You guys have a good one. I will be bringing you guys another video soon, and I hope you guys enjoy. Control! Control!